Give me 1 hour, and I'll change how you speak forever. Because communication isn't just about words. It's about presence, emotion, and rhythm. It's about how your voice carries your truth. In this journey, you'll learn how to speak with power, listen with depth, and connect with anyone. You'll sound confident, calm, and unforgettable. Stay till the end. And make sure to subscribe, because this 1 hour could transform not just how you speak, but how the world listens to you. Chapter 1. The hidden power of your voice. Your voice is not just sound, it's energy. It carries emotion, intention, and identity. Before you say a word, people feel you. They sense confidence, warmth, or hesitation, all through your tone. Your voice is the first impression your mind ever makes. It reveals who you are before you explain anything. Most people speak without awareness. They use their voice like a tool they've never really learned to hold. But those who master it command rooms, inspire people, and open doors effortlessly. Because your voice has power. And once you understand it, everything changes. The way you speak can calm chaos. It can restore peace in tension. It can turn resistance into agreement. Your tone decides how your message travels. You can say the same sentence 2 ways and create 2 completely different emotions. I need this done can sound like authority, or it can sound like aggression. It depends on how you breathe before you speak. Breath is the foundation of your voice. When your breathing is shallow, your sound feels tense. When your breathing is steady, your sound feels grounded. That's why calm people sound powerful. They don't rush. They don't strain. They let their breath carry their confidence. Your voice has layers, depth, warmth, rhythm. It's not just what you say, it's how your energy moves through each word. When you speak with emotional control, your words don't just reach ears, they reach hearts. In every workplace, in every conversation, the person with the calmest voice often holds the most authority. Not because they speak more, but because their presence speaks louder than their volume. Control doesn't mean coldness. It means awareness. It's the discipline of emotion. Before speaking, pause. Take a slow breath in. Let your body settle. This small moment changes everything. Your tone steadies. Your rhythm slows. Your message strengthens. People don't remember words. They remember how your voice made them feel. That's why some people can say almost nothing and still command attention. Their voice feels aligned. It carries truth. When your voice aligns with your emotion, it becomes magnetic. Think about leaders, speakers, or storytellers who inspire millions. It's not their grammar, it's their tone. It's the way every sentence feels alive. Your voice must match your emotion, but your emotion must stay under your control. If you speak with anger, people hear your insecurity. If you speak with calm conviction, people hear your strength. Your voice is your emotional mirror. It reflects everything you feel, whether you intend it or not. That's why mastering communication begins with mastering tone. You can have all the right words, but if your tone sounds wrong, your message will still fail. The secret lies in awareness. How does your voice sound when you're nervous? When you're confident? When you're excited? When you're tired? Record yourself. Listen. Not to criticize, but to understand. That's how professionals grow. They study their sound the way an artist studies light. Every strong communicator knows this truth. Your voice shapes your identity. It can be sharp or soothing, loud or soft, chaotic or calm. Each tone tells a story about how you see yourself. To change how others perceive you, you must first change how you hear yourself. When you speak with intention, people feel safe around you. They listen differently. They trust more easily. Your voice can create safety. It can comfort. It can empower. But only when it comes from stillness, not stress. Don't rush through sentences. Let them breathe. Let pauses speak with you. Silence between words gives your voice weight. It tells people you're not afraid to pause because you're in control. Your voice is a reflection of your inner state. A calm voice comes from a calm mind. An anxious voice comes from an unsettled one. That's why inner peace is communication's greatest weapon. When you learn to steady your emotions, your words start to land with power. At work, this skill separates you from the rest. People notice you're calm. They remember your composure. They feel your confidence. Your tone becomes your reputation. If your tone is rushed, you'll sound overwhelmed. If your tone is harsh, you'll sound cold. If your tone is steady, you'll sound like a leader. This is how communication begins. Not with language, but with energy. To master your voice, practice awareness every day. Listen before you speak. Feel before you respond. Your goal is not to sound perfect. It's to sound present. When you speak from presence, your words vibrate with truth. Your listeners feel it. They lean in without even knowing why. Because confidence doesn't shout, it resonates. So, train your voice. Breathe deeper. Slow down your pace. Choose words that match your calm. In a noisy world, the voice that speaks with patience always stands out. The world doesn't need more loud voices. It needs more grounded ones. And when you master yours, you'll notice something beautiful. You won't need to raise it to be heard. People will listen, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. That's the hidden power of your voice. It's not in your sound. It's in your silence, your control, and your calm confidence. Chapter 2. The Secret of Emotional Tone. Your tone speaks before your words do. It tells the world exactly how you feel, even when you try to hide it. People might forget what you said, but they will never forget how your tone made them feel. That's the secret of emotional tone. It's the emotion behind your words that creates your impact. You can say thank you with sincerity, or with sarcasm. You can say I'm fine with peace, or with pain. It's not the words, it's the feeling you attach to them. Your tone is emotional energy turned into sound. It carries the truth you can't hide. And that's what people respond to, not just your message, but your emotion. At work, tone is everything. It defines trust, builds reputation, and shapes relationships. You can have the right idea but lose your audience if your tone feels defensive, rushed, or cold. The emotionally intelligent communicator knows this. They speak with awareness. They control their tone even when emotions rise. They don't let frustration bleed into their words, because once your tone loses balance, your message loses meaning. Tone is not just about speaking softly. It's about speaking with control. It's emotional discipline turned into sound. Every time you open your mouth, your tone carries a message about your state of mind. It says whether you're calm or anxious, confident or uncertain, patient or irritated. That's why before speaking, you must check your energy. If your tone is wrong, your truth won't be heard. Take a moment. Breathe. Ask yourself quietly, what emotion am I about to communicate? If it's not calm, wait. Center yourself. Then speak. That pause can save relationships, reputations, and respect. Emotional tone shapes every conversation, from a boardroom to a phone call, from a speech to a simple good morning. You can turn a tense situation peaceful with one gentle tone. You can turn misunderstanding into trust with one measured pause. Your tone decides whether you create peace or chaos. The problem is, most people never train it. They work on vocabulary, pronunciation, confidence, but they ignore emotion. And without emotional tone, words are empty. They sound rehearsed. They sound robotic. They lack humanity. The tone that connects is the one that feels real. Not forced, not perfect. Real. Authenticity is what people crave. When your tone is honest, people trust you instantly. Even if your words are simple, if your tone carries truth, they'll believe you. But if your words are clever and your tone feels fake, they'll doubt every sentence. That's the paradox of communication. You can't fake energy. You can only align it. Your tone comes from your inner world. If your heart is at peace, your tone will sound steady. If your mind is cluttered, your tone will sound chaotic. That's why inner balance is the root of outer influence. The emotionally intelligent speaker never rushes. They don't speak from reaction. They speak from reflection. They know emotion can be fuel, but it must be controlled. Anger can make your tone sharp. Fear can make it shaky. Pride can make it hard. Compassion can make it powerful. Your tone is a mirror of your emotion, so master the emotion, and the tone will follow. In workplaces, tone can change outcomes. It can turn no into understanding. It can turn we disagree into let's find a solution. When your tone is calm, you invite respect. When it's aggressive, you invite resistance. The secret is in balance. Firm, yet kind. Clear, yet gentle. That balance is the sound of true power. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You need to sound grounded. Your tone tells people, I'm confident in my truth, but I respect yours too. That's the voice people trust. That's the voice people follow. Every great communicator has mastered this art. The art of emotional tone. They don't speak to impress. They speak to express. They don't force emotion. They guide it. And that guidance begins with awareness. Listen to yourself. Record your tone when you're calm. Then record it when you're frustrated. You'll hear two completely different people. One feels magnetic. The other feels draining. That's how much tone matters. If you want people to listen, don't raise your volume. Raise your awareness. If you want people to feel you, don't exaggerate your emotion. Align it. When your tone and your message move together, your voice becomes unforgettable. People start associating you with peace, with assurance, with trust. That's when your communication becomes more than speech. It becomes presence. A steady tone in a chaotic room becomes the anchor everyone looks toward. That's leadership through sound. That's emotional mastery in action. The more you practice it, the stronger your influence grows. Because emotional tone doesn't just change how people hear you. It changes how people feel around you. And in the end, that's what communication truly is. Not just transferring words, but transferring feeling. You can't lead people without emotion. You can't inspire without energy. You can't connect without tone. So, next time you speak, don't just think about the words. Think about the emotion behind them. Feel what you say. Mean what you feel. Because when emotion and expression merge, your words become alive. They stop being sounds. They become stories. That's the real secret of emotional tone. It's not learned from scripts. It's learned from awareness. And once you master it, you'll never just talk again. You'll move people. Your tone will carry empathy. Your words will carry weight. Your silence will carry power. That's the sound of mastery. That's the sound of connection. That's the sound of someone who truly understands the art of communication. Chapter 3, Building Trust Through Communication. Trust is the foundation of all connection. Without it, communication collapses. You can speak the right words, but if people don't trust your tone, they won't believe your message. Trust is not built by talking more. It's built by being consistent. It's not built by loudness. It's built by presence. Every time you speak, your words are judged not only by what they mean, but by whether people believe you mean them. And that belief comes from trust. In every workplace, in every relationship, communication without trust feels empty. It sounds rehearsed. It lacks soul. People can feel dishonesty before they can explain it. They sense it in your eyes, your tone, your hesitation. That's why the first rule of powerful communication is authenticity. If your words and your truth don't match, people will feel it instantly. Authenticity is not about saying everything on your mind. It's about being real in what you choose to say. When you mean what you say, and say it with care. Trust begins to grow quietly, like roots under the surface. Trust doesn't come in a single conversation. It builds drop by drop, through consistency, through behavior, through time. Every small interaction adds to it, or takes away from it. One careless sentence can undo months of sincerity. One moment of integrity can restore years of distance. That's how fragile trust is, and how sacred it should be. In the art of communication, trust is not just a skill. It's the soil where every message grows. When people trust you, your words carry weight. When they don't, even truth sounds suspicious. To build trust through communication, you must practice 3 invisible habits: presence, honesty, and empathy. Presence means being fully there. When someone talks, listen with your whole self. Put away the phone. Look at them. Let them feel your attention. People don't remember how fast you replied. They remember how deeply you listened. Listening builds trust faster than any speech ever could, because in listening you give something rare: your focus. The next is honesty. Honesty is not cruelty. It's clarity with kindness. Say the truth without breaking the person. Speak with firmness, but never with pride. When people know you're honest, they start to rely on your words. Even when they disagree, they'll respect your sincerity. Because truth, when spoken with respect, creates safety. And that safety is the birthplace of trust. Finally, empathy. Empathy is emotional connection in motion. It's saying, I see you. I understand you. Empathy softens tension. It heals misunderstandings. It turns communication into collaboration. When people feel understood, they naturally open up. They stop defending. They start sharing, and trust grows stronger. These 3, presence, honesty, empathy, are the rhythm of communication that builds connection. Without them, your words become noise. With them, they become bridges. In a workplace, communication often becomes mechanical. Emails, reports, deadlines. It's easy to forget that behind every message is a human being. Someone tired, someone stressed, someone trying. When you communicate with empathy and respect, you remind people they matter. And that reminder builds loyalty deeper than any rule or reward. Trust is the hidden currency of leadership. When your team trusts you, they'll follow your words, even in uncertainty. They'll take risks because they believe you'll catch them. They'll stay calm because they know you won't panic. Trust gives confidence room to grow. It makes communication easy. It removes fear from the exchange. Without trust, every word is weighed. Every silence is questioned. But with trust, even silence feels safe. That's the power of trusted communication. It doesn't always need words. Sometimes your presence is enough. When people know your intentions are pure, they stop listening to your tone for weakness. They start listening to your message for truth. Trust is also built through consistency. Say what you mean what you say. Do it every time. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when no one is watching. Every time you keep your word, you strengthen your credibility. Every time you break it, you weaken your influence. Because communication doesn't end with speech. It continues through action. Your behavior after your words determines whether people will ever believe them again. Trust is silent proof. It's not what you claim. It's what you consistently show. In leadership, this truth separates authority from respect. Authority is given by position. Trust is earned by character. Anyone can give orders. Only a few can inspire trust. Those few understand one thing: communication is not about control. It's about connection. When people feel safe to speak to you, they'll give you their best ideas. They'll tell you the truth when others won't. They'll stand beside you when it matters. That's the invisible strength trust gives a communicator. If you want to lead, speak in a way that invites trust, not fear. Let your tone be steady. Let your words be fair. Let your actions follow through. When people sense your consistency, they'll stop doubting and start believing. Trust also needs vulnerability. Don't pretend to be perfect. Perfection creates distance. Honesty creates closeness. It's okay to say, "I don't know." It's okay to say, "I was wrong." Because humility doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. And people trust real. In every conversation, ask yourself, am I trying to impress or am I trying to connect? The answer will guide your tone, your choice of words, and your intent. True connection begins when ego leaves the room. Trust is built when people feel your words aren't for manipulation, but for mutual understanding. That's what makes your communication unforgettable. Every time you speak, you either plant trust or take it away. So speak like someone who values it. Slow down. Be intentional. Be kind. You'll notice something powerful. People begin to open up. Walls fall down. Relationships deepen. Workplaces transform. Because when trust enters the room, communication becomes effortless. It becomes human again. Trust turns words into promises. It turns sentences into bonds. It turns communication into connection. That's how you build something that lasts. Through sincerity, patience, and truth. When people trust your voice, they don't just listen, they believe. And once you've earned belief, you've mastered the most important part of communication. Not how you speak, but how you make others feel safe when you do. That's the sound of real influence. That's the essence of trust. And that's where every great communicator begins. Chapter 4: The Language of Clarity. Clarity is confidence, made visible. It's what turns your words from noise into meaning. You can be intelligent, wise, and full of ideas. But if you can't express them clearly, no one will ever know your worth. Clarity is the bridge between your thoughts and their understanding. It's how ideas travel from your mind to someone else's heart without getting lost. When you speak with clarity, people stop guessing. They start trusting, because clear communication doesn't just transfer information, it builds certainty. It builds respect. Most people don't struggle with knowledge. They struggle with expression. They think faster than they speak, and their message gets tangled somewhere between emotion and intention. But clarity is not a gift. It's a discipline. It requires thought before speech. It demands simplicity before sophistication. To speak with clarity, you must first slow down, because rushing breaks connection. Your mind moves ahead, but your listener stays behind. The most powerful communicators are not those who say the most. They are those who make every word count. When you speak, visualize your message like light. It has to travel straight, without scattering through confusion. Every extra word is dust in that light. Every vague phrase dims your truth. Be simple. Be precise. Be intentional. Simplicity doesn't make you sound small. It makes you sound strong. Because clarity is not about saying less, it's about saying what matters most. In a world full of noise, a clear voice becomes unforgettable. Clarity gives your communication rhythm. It keeps your listener comfortable. They don't have to decode your meaning. They can just feel it. When your message is clear, it reaches faster, stays longer, and inspires deeper. At work, clarity saves time, effort, and misunderstanding. One well-phrased instruction can prevent days of confusion. One clear explanation can transform a frustrated meeting into progress. Leaders who master clarity never waste words. They speak to be understood, not to impress. Because big words don't build influence. Clear ones do. To achieve clarity, you must know what you want to say, and why you're saying it. Most confusion begins in the mind. If your thoughts are cluttered, your words will be too. Before you speak, pause. Organize your idea. Ask yourself silently, what is my real message? Once you find it, everything else will fall away. Clarity is born from focus. When your intention is pure, your words follow naturally. But clarity also needs courage. Because being clear means being honest, It's easier to hide behind vague words. It's harder to say the truth directly, especially when it might cause discomfort. But people respect clarity more than comfort, because clarity shows integrity. It shows that you value truth over approval. When you communicate with clarity, you show strength, you show direction, you show respect for the listener's time and attention. Clarity also needs tone. Even the clearest words can sound confusing if your tone doesn't match your message. Speak slowly. Let your sentences breathe. Let silence shape your rhythm. Your pauses give meaning space to settle. A clear message delivered calmly feels stronger than a loud one, shouted in urgency. Calmness gives clarity its power. It gives your words the authority of thought. Every time you speak with intention, your listener feels safe. They don't need to guess your motives. They can just receive your message. That's what clarity does. It replaces guessing with understanding. And understanding builds trust. Think about the best communicators you've ever heard. They didn't drown you in language. They made complex things sound simple. That's the real genius, to simplify without losing meaning. Clarity also means knowing what not to say. Unnecessary details distract. Over-explaining weakens impact. Say what needs to be said, and then stop. Leave room for thought. Let silence do the rest. Because communication isn't a performance. It's a transfer of truth. When your words are clear, they travel deeper. They echo longer. People remember clear sentences, not clever ones. They remember emotions that were easy to understand, not speeches filled with complexity. At work, clarity also means directness. If something's wrong, say it with respect. If something's unclear, ask without fear. If something's important, make it unmistakable. The workplace thrives on clarity. Confusion kills efficiency, and unclear communication breeds frustration. The more clarity you bring, the more harmony you create. A team that communicates clearly moves like one body, not scattered voices. Clarity aligns people. It brings unity where chaos once lived. Even written communication, emails, messages, reports, should carry the same calm tone of clarity. Avoid unnecessary jargon. Write like you're speaking to a friend, not performing for approval, because the goal is understanding, not admiration. When people can easily understand you, they will easily follow you. Clarity turns communication into leadership. Leaders don't complicate. They clarify. They remove fog. They bring focus. They make people see what matters. Clarity is not about perfection. It's about purpose. Your purpose gives your words direction. Your direction gives your message strength. And your strength gives others confidence. When your communication becomes clear, you stop chasing validation. You start creating connection. People no longer listen out of obligation. They listen out of respect, because they know your words will always mean something. That's how clarity earns attention, not by shouting, but by simplifying truth. To master this, practice mindful speaking. Before every meeting, presentation, or conversation, take a moment to center yourself. Remind your mind, I am here to connect, not to impress. That single thought will change how your voice sounds. It will remove tension. It will remove performance. It will leave only presence. Presence creates clarity, because when you are fully present, your words carry truth instead of noise. People can feel that. They always can. Clarity is invisible confidence. You don't need to prove anything. You just speak, and your steadiness does the rest. And when you speak that way, calm, focused, intentional, the room listens differently. Because clarity isn't just heard. It's felt. It's what turns a communicator into a leader. It's what turns ordinary conversations into moments of connection. So let your words breathe. Let your meaning shine. Strip away the unnecessary, and what remains will always be powerful. Because when you master the language of clarity, you don't just speak, you illuminate. Chapter 5. The power of listening. Listening is not weakness. It's power in silence. Most people hear, but very few truly listen. They wait for their turn to speak. They nod without presence. They respond without understanding. But real listening, that's connection in its purest form. It's when you stop thinking about what you'll say next and start feeling what the other person is actually saying. Because listening is not about ears. It's about awareness. It's about empathy, emotion. When you listen with depth, you don't just hear words. You hear emotion. You hear intention. You hear the spaces between sentences that reveal truth. Every human being wants the same thing: to be understood, to be heard, to be seen. And when you give that to someone through your listening, you give them something rare: respect. That's why the best communicators are not the best talkers. They're the best listeners. Their silence holds strength. Their stillness holds understanding. They know that every pause, every breath, every nod is part of communication. Because when you listen, you build trust, you build safety, you build belonging. Listening tells people, you matter. I see you. I'm here. No fancy vocabulary can replace that feeling. The art of listening begins with humility. It starts with accepting that your words are not always needed. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Let the other person fill the silence. Let them unfold. Let them be heard fully before you respond. That's when true connection begins. In workplaces, listening is the difference between chaos and clarity, between miscommunication and collaboration. A good leader speaks with authority. A great leader listens with empathy. Because people don't open up to power, they open up to understanding. When you listen carefully, you see what's unsaid. You notice the tone beneath the words. You catch the emotions behind the expressions. That's where the real information lives. Not in what's spoken, but in what's felt. To master communication, you must master stillness. Listening is not about being quiet. It's about being present. When your mind is calm, your awareness sharpens. You start noticing details others miss. A hesitation, a sigh, a subtle shift in energy. Each one tells a story. And when you respond with care, you make the speaker feel safe. That safety builds loyalty. Listening turns conversation into healing. Because when someone feels heard, half their burden disappears. In meetings, in families, in friendships, most conflicts are not caused by disagreement, but by unheard emotions. When people feel ignored, they start shouting. When they feel understood, they start cooperating. Listening diffuses tension faster than logic. You don't have to fix everything. You just have to hear it. That's the secret few understand. People don't always need advice. They need acknowledgement. They need someone to simply say, I understand what you're feeling. That one sentence can calm storms. Listening creates space. It gives people room to breathe, room to reflect, room to find their own answers. Because silence is not emptiness. It's space for understanding. When you listen, don't interrupt. Don't rush to fill the gaps. Let the conversation unfold naturally. If you stay patient, the truth will reveal itself. Listening is emotional discipline. It teaches you control. It teaches you humility. Because you're not trying to dominate the moment. You're trying to understand it. That's how emotional intelligence works in communication. At work, great listeners create great teams. They make others feel valued. They reduce misunderstandings. They inspire cooperation. Everyone wants to be around someone who listens, because being heard feels like being respected. If you want influence, listen more. If you want loyalty, listen deeper. If you want love, listen with heart. The quality of your relationships is determined by the quality of your listening. When you listen to learn, not to reply, you grow. You learn how people think. You learn what they fear. You learn what they hope for. Every person becomes a story. Every story teaches you something. That's how communication expands your world. through listening, not just talking. Your silence can say, I'm focused on you. I'm giving you space. I respect your truth. That's what makes a listener powerful, their ability to make others feel significant. Because ego talks, wisdom listens. The person who listens controls the conversation, not through dominance, but through presence. They don't fight for attention. They earn it through awareness. Even in negotiation, the best communicators listen more than they speak. They observe. They adapt. They wait. Because the more you understand others, the easier it is to guide the outcome. Listening gives you insight. Insight gives you influence. It's a quiet cycle that builds power without aggression. If you want to sound wise, listen before you speak. If you want to sound confident, pause before you answer. If you want to sound calm, breathe before you react. Because in those moments of stillness, your emotions settle and your words gain strength. Listening also deepens self-awareness. You learn not only about others, but about yourself. You realize how often your mind tries to interrupt. You notice your impatience. You recognize your urge to control, and slowly, you learn to quiet that noise. That's when you truly evolve, when you stop hearing to respond and start listening to connect. In every great conversation, listening and speaking dance together. One leads with silence. The other follows with understanding. That balance is communication at its finest. So next time someone speaks, don't rush to reply, just be there. Feel the emotion behind their words. Listen with your eyes, your body, your heart. And when you do speak, let your words come from empathy, not ego. That's how communication heals, inspires, and transforms. Listening doesn't make you quiet. It makes you powerful. Because silence, when used with awareness, becomes the most intelligent sound in the room. Chapter 6. The emotion behind words. Words are just vessels. Emotion is what fills them. Without emotion, even the most beautiful words feel hollow. Without feeling, even truth sounds lifeless. Emotion gives language its soul. It's the heartbeat behind every sentence you speak. The difference between a speaker and a communicator is emotion. Anyone can say words. Few can make people feel them. When you speak with real emotion, your message doesn't just reach ears, it reaches hearts. And that's where transformation begins. In communication, emotion is invisible energy. It travels through tone, rhythm, and presence. It shapes how your words land and what they mean. You can say, I'm proud of you, in 100 ways, but only one will make someone cry. Because emotion doesn't come from vocabulary. It comes from authenticity. Can't fake real feeling. You can only reveal it. Emotion is honesty expressed through sound. It's your inner world meeting the outer one. When your heart and your words align, people trust you without trying to. They feel you without needing to analyze you. That's why emotion is the language of humanity. It's universal. It speaks across cultures, beyond logic, beyond words themselves. At work, most people underestimate it. They think emotion is weakness. They hide it under professionalism. But emotion is not the enemy of logic. It's the amplifier of it. Facts inform. Emotion transforms. A leader who communicates with emotion doesn't just explain. They inspire. A teammate who speaks with empathy doesn't just correct. They connect. The moment emotion enters your communication, people stop hearing and start feeling. That's where impact lives. Your emotion is your message's delivery system. It determines whether people remember you or forget you the moment you stop talking. Think about the greatest speeches ever given. They weren't filled with complex words. They were filled with emotion, courage, hope, conviction, love. Emotion gives strength to simple language. A single phrase, spoken with genuine emotion, can shake nations or heal a soul. That's the power you hold every time you speak. But most people bury their emotion. They fear being vulnerable. They fear being judged. So they hide behind safe words. flat tones, empty smiles, and their communication dies before it even begins. Because when you remove emotion, you remove connection. People don't want perfection. They want presence. They want to feel that you mean what you say. They want to sense your sincerity. When you communicate with warmth, you invite others in. When you communicate with coldness, you shut them out. Your emotion decides the temperature of every conversation. The key is not to overflow with emotion, but to channel it. Control doesn't mean suppression. It means direction. Anger can motivate if guided with calm. Passion can inspire if balanced with focus. Sadness can unite if expressed with strength. Your goal is not to remove emotion. It's to refine it. Because emotion without control creates chaos, but emotion with awareness creates connection. To master the emotion behind words, you must first understand your own emotions. Notice how your body reacts when you speak. Do your shoulders tense? Does your breath shorten? Do your words rush out? These are clues. They show you how emotion moves through you. When you recognize it, you can guide it. Emotion is like electricity, dangerous when uncontrolled, powerful when directed. If you let anger control your voice, your tone will burn. If you let compassion lead, your tone will heal. That's the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is emotion without awareness. Response is emotion with intention. That's where true communicators live, in that space between feeling and expression. They don't suppress emotion. They shape it. They use emotion as art, painting meaning through tone, pace, and rhythm. When you speak with emotional balance, your voice becomes magnetic. People can't explain it, but they lean closer. Because your words feel alive. They carry warmth. They carry truth. And truth always attracts attention. Even in workplaces, emotion plays a silent but decisive role. How you speak to your team when they're under pressure determines how they'll perform. If your tone carries frustration, they'll shrink. If it carries belief, they'll rise. Emotion is leadership in motion. The calm in your voice during chaos can be the reason someone keeps going. That's the unseen power of emotional communication. It's not about saying, "It'll be okay." It's about making people feel it will. Because emotion is energy transfer. You can't teach it through rules. You teach it through presence. When your presence feels safe, your words feel strong. When your energy feels peaceful, your words carry clarity. That's why great communicators don't just talk. They radiate calm. Their tone heals. Their rhythm reassures. Their emotion guides. Emotion doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. The world doesn't need more emotionless professionals. It needs more emotionally intelligent humans. People who speak with awareness. People who listen with compassion. People who express with care. Your words can build bridges or burn them. The deciding factor is emotion. So before you speak, pause and ask yourself, what emotion am I giving right now? If it's anger, slow down. If it's fear, breathe. If it's love, let it flow. Every emotion has a voice. Your job is to choose which one speaks for you. The secret is alignment. When your inner world and your outer words match, your voice becomes powerful. When they clash, your voice loses integrity. People can sense it. They always can, because emotion is vibration. It doesn't need translation. It's felt instantly. That's why your emotional tone determines your influence. Say less, feel more. Mean every word you say, and people will start listening differently. Because when emotion leads communication, your message turns into an experience. It stays in their heart, not just in their memory. That's the real goal of every communicator, to leave a feeling, not just a thought. In the end, your words are only as powerful as the emotion behind them. So speak with awareness, speak with warmth, speak with truth, because the emotion behind your words is what turns ordinary speech into unforgettable communication. Chapter 7. The confidence connection. Confidence is not volume. It's not posture. It's not even words. Confidence is energy. It's the quiet strength behind your tone. It's the calm that fills a room before you speak. People can sense it before you say a single word. They feel it in your pause, in your eye contact, in the rhythm of your breath. Confidence isn't about being louder than others. It's about being centered within yourself. You don't need to shout to be heard. You need to believe in your own sound. Confidence is not built overnight. It's shaped through moments, small wins, broken fears, and thousands of times you kept showing up. It's not arrogance. It's alignment. When your inner belief matches your outer expression, that's real confidence. Most people think confidence comes from perfection, but perfection kills confidence. Because the more you chase flawless speech, the more pressure you create inside. True confidence is comfort within perfection. It's knowing that mistakes don't define your worth. They define your growth. When you accept that, you speak differently. Your words become freer. Your tone becomes warmer. Your voice stops shaking, because you're no longer trying to impress. You're simply expressing. Confidence begins in silence. It's what you tell yourself before you open your mouth. If your inner voice says, "I can't," your outer voice will always echo fear. But if your inner voice says, "I belong here," your presence will command attention naturally. Confidence starts in the unseen moments, the rehearsals no one watches, the rejections that didn't stop you, the quiet hours you practiced in private. Every one of those moments adds up. Every one of them builds your foundation. When you finally speak, people don't hear just your words. They hear your history. That's why confidence feels powerful. It carries your journey. Confidence isn't loud. It's steady. It's the stillness that says, "I know who I am." The most confident communicators don't dominate. They don't rush. They don't demand. They allow. They let silence work for them. They let calm do the talking. Because confidence isn't about controlling the room. It's about controlling yourself in the room. At work, confidence is magnetic. It makes people trust your words, follow your ideas, and believe in your direction. But you don't earn it by pretending to be fearless. You earn it by showing up despite fear. Every time you speak when you're nervous, you grow stronger. Every time you share an idea despite doubt, you reinforce your inner voice. That repetition builds muscle, the muscle of belief. Confidence is not something you get. It's something you build, brick by brick, word by word, moment by moment. And every time you practice, you add another layer of certainty. You start trusting yourself more. You stop overthinking. You stop apologizing for your presence. Because confidence is trust. Trust in your preparation. Trust in your value. Trust in your authenticity. It's knowing that your voice matters. When you believe that, your tone changes. It becomes grounded. It becomes persuasive. It becomes alive. Confidence doesn't mean you never hesitate. It means you keep going even when you do. The confident communicator doesn't eliminate fear. They learn to walk with it. Because fear never fully disappears. It just gets quieter when you stop feeding it. You feed fear with doubt. You weaken it with action. So every time you speak despite nerves, you prove fear wrong. That's how real confidence is born. Through courage, not comfort. Confidence is also contagious. When you speak with calm conviction, others around you feel safe. Your tone gives them permission to relax. Your energy tells them, "It's okay, we've got this." That's why confident people lead even without titles. Their presence creates stability. Confidence communicates trust before words even start. And trust builds influence. Confidence also shapes your body language. When you're grounded inside, your gestures follow naturally. You stop overacting. You stop freezing. You move with ease. Your communication becomes fluid because your energy is no longer fighting itself. Every part of you says the same thing. "I'm here and I'm enough." Confidence doesn't come from memorizing lines. It comes from understanding meaning. When you truly believe in what you're saying, your voice carries conviction. Even simple words sound strong when they come from a place of truth. Confidence isn't about being right. It's about being real. When your authenticity meets your awareness, your presence becomes undeniable. That's what people respond to, not your perfection, but your certainty. And that certainty grows from within. Practice clarity. Practice calmness. Practice control. Speak slowly. Breathe deeply. Pause often. Each pause builds power. Each breath builds presence. Confidence lives in your rhythm, not in your speed. You don't have to rush to sound sure. You just have to mean what you say. Confidence also grows when you stop comparing. You don't need to sound like anyone else. You just need to sound like you, at your most grounded, most present, most sincere. Comparison steals authenticity, and authenticity is the heartbeat of confidence. When you accept your own style, your communication becomes effortless. You no longer try to fit in. You make others adjust to your energy. That's what true presence feels like. Even silence becomes powerful when it comes from confidence, because people can sense when your silence holds certainty, not fear. A calm pause can command more respect than a long explanation. That's emotional mastery. That's confidence without noise. To master confidence, start small. Speak up in meetings. Ask questions you'd normally avoid. Introduce yourself with pride. Each moment builds momentum. Each moment strengthens belief. Confidence isn't about waiting to feel ready. It's about acting before you do. Because readiness is a myth. If you wait to be confident, you'll wait forever. Confidence grows only through doing. And one day, you'll realize your fear no longer controls you. You've built a new voice, one that sounds calm, assured, and completely yours. That's the confidence connection. When your inner belief becomes your outer sound, you no longer speak to prove yourself. You speak because you already know yourself. And when that happens, you stop trying to impress. You start to impact. Confidence doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you've always been. The person beneath the fear. The voice beneath the noise. The calm beneath the chaos. Once you find that voice, never let it go. Because confidence isn't something you borrow. It's something you become. And once it's yours, your words, your tone, your silence will carry it everywhere you go. Chapter 8. The Art of Persuasive Speaking. Persuasion is not manipulation. It's influence with integrity. It's not about forcing someone to agree with you. It's about helping them see what you see, clearly, calmly, and convincingly. Persuasive speaking is an art because it lives between emotion and logic. Too much logic feels cold. Too much emotion feels unstable. True persuasion is balance. It's when reason touches the heart and emotion respects the mind. You can't persuade people by overpowering them. You persuade them by understanding them. Because people don't change their minds through pressure. They change through connection. They need to feel seen, heard, and respected before they'll ever follow your voice. Persuasive communication begins long before you speak. It begins with awareness. Awareness of who you're speaking to, what they value, and what they fear. You can't move a person if you don't understand what moves them. That's why the most persuasive speakers are not the loudest. They are the most empathetic. They listen before they talk. They study emotion before they share ideas. They make people feel safe before they ask them to change. Because persuasion is emotional permission. When people feel understood, they stop resisting. When they stop resisting, they start listening. And that's when real influence begins. Persuasive speaking is not a trick. It's alignment between your words, your tone, and your purpose. Your tone must carry honesty. Your words must carry clarity. Your purpose must carry sincerity. When all three align, your message feels natural. It feels trustworthy. It feels powerful, but if even one element feels off, people will sense it. They won't be able to explain why, but they'll stop believing you. Because persuasion fails where authenticity ends. The first rule of persuasion is belief. You must believe in your message more than anyone else. You can't sell conviction you don't have. When your belief is strong, your energy becomes contagious. Your passion becomes magnetic. Your confidence becomes convincing. People are drawn to certainty. They follow voices that sound sure, not arrogant, assured. Assurance is calm conviction. It's confidence wrapped in clarity. When you speak with assurance, your words land deeper. Your pauses feel deliberate. Your tone carries quiet authority. That's persuasive energy. It's not in volume, it's in vibration. The way you structure your words also matters. Persuasive speakers know how to guide emotion through rhythm. They don't rush, they build. They pause where it matters. They let silence underline meaning. Because silence is persuasion too. Every pause gives your listener space to feel, and feeling is what makes decisions. Logic but may open the door, emotion walks through it. That's why every persuasive message must speak to both the head and the heart. You give facts to satisfy the mind. You give emotion to move the soul. At work, persuasion isn't about getting your way. It's about getting everyone moving the same way. It's how leaders turn vision into reality. They don't impose their ideas, they plant them. They speak with conviction, not command. They explain with purpose, not pride. Because persuasion born of ego creates resistance. But persuasion born of truth creates trust. Trust is the soul of influence. If people trust you, they'll follow your words even when they disagree, because they'll believe your intention. Persuasion also depends on clarity. You can't convince anyone of something you can't explain clearly. Simplicity is persuasive. The clearer your point, the stronger your impact. People rarely say no because they disagree. They say no because they don't understand. That's why great communicators make the complex sound simple. They translate ideas into feelings. They use examples, stories, and tone to make abstract thoughts tangible. Storytelling is persuasion in disguise. A story doesn't argue, it connects. When people see themselves in your story, they stop listening as outsiders. They start feeling as participants. That's how you win hearts. That's how you change minds. You can say, teamwork is important, and they'll nod politely. Or you can say, when one person falls behind, we all move slower. But when one person shines, we all move faster. Now they don't just understand teamwork. They feel it. That's persuasive speaking, making others feel your truth. Tone plays a vital role here. If your tone feels forceful, people resist. If it feels desperate, they doubt. But if it feels steady, patient, and confident, they lean in. Because tone carries trust before words do. The more control you have over your emotion, the more persuasive your voice becomes. Never speak to prove. Speak to serve. When your intention is pure, your persuasion feels natural. Because people can sense purity. They can sense authenticity. Authenticity beats technique every time. Persuasive speaking is emotional alignment. It's speaking with heart, but guided by reason. It's being passionate without being overpowering. Firm without being rigid. Kind without being weak. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. Because sometimes the most persuasive act is letting someone feel heard. When they feel understood, they'll naturally move closer to your perspective. That's the secret most communicators miss. You don't win arguments by winning words. You win them by winning hearts. Every persuasive speaker knows how to create emotional safety. They remove judgment from their tone. They use empathy as a bridge. They don't say, "You're wrong." They say, "I see your point. Let's look at it another way." That one sentence changes everything. Because persuasion is not confrontation. It's collaboration. When people feel respected, they stop defending. When they stop defending, they start considering. And when they start considering, your influence begins. The art of persuasion is the art of patience. You can't rush belief. You have to earn it. One tone, one story, one pause at a time. When you master that rhythm, your words will no longer feel like persuasion. They'll feel like guidance. People won't feel pushed. They'll feel pulled by your clarity, by your calm, by your conviction. That's real power. Power that doesn't control, it convinces. Persuasive speaking is not just about outcomes. It's about understanding influence as responsibility. Because when people listen to you, you shape how they think, how they feel, how they act. That's not a privilege. That's a duty. So use your voice wisely. Use it to uplift, not manipulate. To build, not bend. To inspire, not impose. That's what separates influence from control. When your words carry integrity, your persuasion creates change that lasts. And the moment your words align with truth, they stop sounding like persuasion. They start sounding like leadership. That's the art of persuasive speaking. Not making others do what you want, but helping them see why it matters. Because true persuasion doesn't push, it invites. It doesn't shout, it resonates. It doesn't force, it inspires. That's the voice the world listens to. That's the voice that leads. Chapter 9. Communicating with empathy. Empathy is not sympathy. It's not about feeling sorry for someone. It's about feeling with them. Empathy is seeing through another person's eyes, hearing through their heart, and understanding their silence. It's the bridge that connects emotion with understanding. Without empathy, communication becomes mechanical. It may deliver information, but it will never deliver meaning. Empathy gives words life. It makes your message human. It transforms your voice from noise into comfort. When you communicate with empathy, people stop protecting themselves. They start trusting you, because empathy is safety. It tells people, you're not alone here. That one feeling can change everything. A conversation, a relationship, even a life. In a world full of noise and judgment, empathy is the rare sound of listening. It's the tone that says, I care enough to understand before I respond. The foundation of empathy is presence. You can't connect with someone if your mind is somewhere else. When someone speaks, don't think about what to say next. Don't wait for your turn to talk. Just be there. Let them feel your attention. Let them feel your calm. Because empathy isn't in your reply. It's in your awareness. People remember when you make them feel seen. They remember when you make them feel understood. That's why emotionally intelligent communicators don't rush conversations. They pause. They observe. They listen for emotion. Not just for words. They know that a sigh may mean more than a sentence. That silence often holds the truth words can't express. Empathy begins where judgment ends. You can't understand someone if you've already decided who they are. Let go of assumption. Meet people where they are, not where you wish they were. That's the heart of real connection, acceptance. Empathy doesn't mean agreement. It means respect. It means saying, I see your reality, even if it's not mine. At work, empathy is not just kindness. It's strategy. Teams that communicate with empathy build stronger bonds. They solve problems faster because they trust each other's intentions. They share ideas openly because they don't fear judgment. Empathy turns competition into collaboration. Leaders who speak with empathy don't motivate through fear. They inspire through understanding. They don't ask, what's wrong with you? They ask, what happened to you? That question changes tone. It changes outcomes. It changes people. Because empathy doesn't look at mistakes. It looks at the reasons behind them. It doesn't blame. It understands. And when people feel understood, they stop hiding. They start improving. That's why empathy is the most powerful communication skill a leader can have. It doesn't just connect minds. It heals hearts. Empathy also requires emotional balance. You can't help others if you drown in their emotions. True empathy is grounded. It feels deeply, but stays centered. You're not absorbing pain. You're acknowledging it. You're saying, I feel your struggle, and I'm here beside you. That's strength, not softness. In every great communicator, you'll find this ability to balance feeling with focus, to care without collapsing, to understand without losing direction. That's emotional maturity. Empathy shows up in small gestures, in tone, in eye contact, in patience. When someone's upset, you don't need the perfect response. You just need presence. Sometimes the most healing words are, I understand, I'm here, it's okay. These phrases don't solve everything, but they remind people they're not unseen. At work, empathy also means noticing what's not being said. The quiet colleague, the tired face, the change in energy after a meeting. These small observations help you connect beyond the surface. Because empathy doesn't wait for pain to speak. It recognizes it before it's spoken. When you communicate with empathy, you become a mirror that reflects comfort, not criticism. People start opening up to you naturally, because your energy says, I'm safe to talk to. That's when influence becomes effortless. Empathy strengthens relationships not through power, but through peace. And peace is persuasive. It allows honesty to breathe. It allows solutions to appear. It allows trust to grow. The most powerful moments in communication often happen in silence, a silence filled with understanding. Empathy fills that silence with warmth. When you speak after truly listening, your words land differently. They don't sound rehearsed. They sound real, because they come from awareness, not reaction. Empathy is emotional intelligence in motion. It's not just something you know. It's something you show. It's visible in how you treat people when they can't offer you anything, in how you respond when someone fails, in how you hold space when someone breaks. That's when your communication reveals your character. Empathy makes your tone softer, your timing wiser, your words kinder. And when your communication carries kindness, your presence becomes healing. People remember those who made them feel heard, more than those who made them feel small. That's how empathy turns ordinary communication into emotional connection. To communicate with empathy, start with curiosity. Ask yourself, what might this person be feeling right now? What's the story behind their reaction? When you shift from judgment to curiosity, you automatically become more understanding. Curiosity opens hearts. Empathy keeps them open. But empathy is not only for others, it's also for yourself. You can't give understanding if you deny your own emotions. Be gentle with your voice. Be patient with your growth. When you treat yourself with empathy, you learn how to extend it to others naturally. Because empathy is not a technique. It's a habit of the heart. Every day you have the chance to practice it. In traffic, in conversation, in disagreement, in silence. Each act of empathy adds softness to your presence and depth to your communication. It teaches you to pause before reacting, to breathe before judging, to feel before speaking. That's how your communication evolves, from being informative to being transformative. In the end, empathy is what makes you human. It's what keeps your communication alive, compassionate, and timeless. You can have the best vocabulary, the sharpest logic, the strongest voice, but without empathy, none of it will matter. Because people don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. So let every word you speak carry understanding. Let every silence you keep carry compassion. Because when you communicate with empathy, you don't just speak to people, you reach their soul. And that, my friend, is the highest form of communication there is. Chapter 10, The Voice of Leadership. Leadership is not a title. It's a tone. It's not what you control. It's what you communicate. The voice of leadership isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. steady and calm, the kind of calm that steadies everyone else. Leaders don't speak to be heard. They speak to bring clarity, to bring courage, to bring hope. Every leader's power begins with presence, the energy they carry before they ever say a word. Because people don't follow instructions, they follow conviction. They follow the sound of confidence wrapped in care. That's the real voice of leadership. Authority without arrogance, strength without force, influence without fear. True leaders don't shout their way into attention. They earn it through integrity. Every word they speak carries consistency. Every silence carries intention. Their communication doesn't just direct, it inspires. A leader's tone can ignite courage, or it can create chaos. It can build trust, or it can break it. That's why leadership begins with emotional awareness. You can't guide others if you don't understand what you're giving off. If your tone carries fear, your team will mirror it. If your tone carries calm, they'll find their balance in you. The voice of leadership is the anchor in uncertainty. When everything feels unstable, your words become direction. Your silence becomes reassurance. You are the emotional climate of your environment. Your tone decides whether people shrink or stand taller. It decides whether they speak honestly or hide quietly. A leader's words must create space, not suffocate it. Space for opinions, for ideas, for growth. Because leadership communication isn't about having all the answers. It's about creating safety for better ones to emerge. The strongest leaders listen more than they talk. They speak last, not because they're unsure, but because they value perspective. Listening is leadership in its purest form. When you make others feel heard, you don't lose authority, you gain trust. And trust is the invisible power that holds everything together. Your team will forgive your mistakes. They won't forgive your disrespect. Because leadership is not perfection. It's presence. It's showing up fully, even when you don't know what's next. It's speaking honestly, even when the truth is uncomfortable. It's calming others, even when you're still finding your own calm. That's what separates a leader's voice from everyone else's. Its ability to carry strength, even in vulnerability. Great leaders know when to be silent, when to speak, and when to listen. They use their tone not to dominate, but to elevate. Their words lift others higher. Their voice brings direction without control. Because leadership is service disguised as strength. Every time you speak as a leader, you shape how others feel about themselves. Your tone can make them believe they're capable, or make them doubt they ever were. That's why your voice must always reflect respect. Speak to people, not down to them. Use your tone to empower, not to prove. When you speak from ego, you create distance. When you speak from empathy, you create devotion. People don't follow orders. They follow energy. They follow voices that make them feel seen. They follow words that remind them why they started. The voice of leadership is a voice of purpose. It doesn't chase attention. It commands it through clarity. It doesn't demand loyalty. It earns it through consistency. Your communication, as a leader, must always carry truth. Not the kind of truth that hurts, the kind that heals, that aligns, that guides. Even when your message is difficult, deliver it with dignity. Because truth loses its power when it loses its humanity. The voice of leadership has rhythm. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It moves like a heartbeat, steady, strong, and alive. That rhythm gives people certainty in chaos. It makes them feel safe enough to act, even when things are unclear. In every crisis, people look for one thing: a steady voice, not a perfect plan, not a flawless leader, just a voice that says, "We'll find the way." That's what leadership sounds like. It's the sound of belief when everyone else doubts. It's the sound of composure when others crumble. It's the sound of purpose when noise fills the air. Leadership communication isn't about control. It's about contribution. It's the art of using your voice to build confidence in others. When your team fails, your voice can either add shame or add strength. A single phrase, "We'll learn from this," can restore faith faster than any lecture, because your tone defines the culture you create. Fear-driven tone builds compliance. Empathy-driven tone builds commitment. And commitment always wins. As a leader, your voice should never echo pressure. It should echo perspective. Remind people what matters. Remind them who they are. Remind them why they started. Because when people lose sight of purpose, they lose passion. And when they lose passion, they stop communicating from the heart. A leader's job is to reignite that heart through words that empower, through tone that uplifts, through presence that reassures. The voice of leadership is not learned in books. It's earned through humility, through long nights, hard conversations, and choices that tested your character. It's in the lessons you didn't want to learn, but had to. And once you find that voice, the voice of calm authority, of honest compassion, you never lose it. It becomes part of you. It becomes your legacy. Because long after you stop speaking, people will remember how your voice made them feel. That's the lasting power of leadership. It doesn't live in words. It lives in the echo of your influence. Your tone, your patience, your truth. That's what people will carry forward. And that's how leaders never truly fade. They live on, through the voices they helped strengthen, through the confidence they helped build, through the calm they once gave others in moments of fear. That's leadership. Not command, not control. Connection. The voice that listens. The voice that guides. The voice that heals. That's the voice of leadership.